Hello and welcome back to my sewing corner for what is very likely the last video here for a while. In 3 days time I am hopping on a plane over to England, so I will not have my space. So for what is my last project before I pack everything away, I am going to be creating an Edwardian-ish walking skirt. So I am using a pattern. I am using Butterick B6537. So it is one of their making history ones. And I don't really know what era this is meant to be because the bodice looks Victorian, but the skirt is kind of more Edwardian. And I've seen it advertised as both when I've tried to find out what it is actually meant to be online. It has been called both. So I'm not sure what era this is, but I am just doing the skirt, which looks Edwardian. So let's go with I'm making an Edwardian skirt. Edwardian inspired, perhaps. Now, because you know I'm on a time crunch here and I've got to get things done, I decided to make it hard for myself and chose a checked fabric. I just can't go past a check. I love it so much. I just have to get good at working with it and pattern matching it. It also requires a lining fabric, so each piece gets flat lined separately. I think there might be enough here, but if there's not, I've got other just plain fabrics that I can use instead. So let's get to the cutting out part because it's probably going to take me a while to do all this pattern matching. And I will say I probably won't get this done here. This will be something that I will hopefully, if I have space, be taking with me, and it will be a nice warm skirt. This is a wool blend, so it'll be a warm skirt for walking around York and exploring. Doing the back piece now, and annoyingly it's just this tiny bit too wide for my fabric when doubled, but as all the historical clothing YouTubers tell us, piecing is period, and I'm just gonna fold it back along this line that was already in the pattern from when it was all folded up. It was just convenient. So I'm going to fold it back, and I have marked 1.5 centimeters away from that as a seam allowance, and then I'll just cut out that extra bit from some scrap up there so that I don't have to cut two huge pieces separately. Just cut out my last piece, which is the hem facing, and I have plenty of fabric left, so matching waistcoat maybe. Everything is cut out. It took me forever. So I have back panels, side back, side front, front, and then waistband, placket, and hem facings up there. So now these get underlined, so each piece has a lining piece and they get flat lined, or underlined as the pattern calls them, but flat lining is how I know it. Each lining piece gets sewn around the edges to the fashion fabric piece and then stitched together. So that will probably take me the rest of the afternoon. And before I forget, I need to put my little piece on, which will sit here, and finish that back piece. And also my front lining fabric, I didn't have enough left to do it on the fold like the front piece is, so I added some seam allowance and cut 2 of them. So now I need to sew that seam allowance before I flat line it. So I've got my front piece and my front lining pinned together. This is the seam, and I've put it in between the layers so I don't have to finish it. It will be protected by that. Now I just need to baste it all together and then do the same for each other piece. And I probably should do this by hand while it's flat, but I don't have a lot of time left, so we are just going to whiz through it on the machine. Barely tell, up here at least, that this has been pieced together, and I think when I'm wearing it, it won't be noticeable at all. So yesterday I got everything lined. There's something really satisfying about having a lined piece of fabric. I don't know what it is, but I love it, and it's weird, but anyway, my next step, now that everything is lined, is to take my back pieces, I think they're both here, join them, but only to a certain point where the placket then goes in. And so then inserting my placket pieces is next after that, and these are also lined. So yeah, let's put my back pieces together and figure out plackets. We've done a bit of ironing, so everything's sitting a bit nicer, and now I just need to slip stitch this right side. So on this side it's got half of it still showing, whereas this one is completely folded back. And I did not think to pattern match the plackets, but at least this will be under that side, so you won't see it, hopefully. Back placket is finished. Now it's time to find my side back pieces and attach them, one on each side. Side back pieces are attached. I could not for the life of me get them to match up pattern wise. I think because of the angle they're cut on. I'm hoping it's not just because I'm awful at it, but I could get the top one to line up, and that was it. By the time you got to this second one, there was no way I had to kind of try to stretch it to fit to make it a little bit longer, and it just was not happening. So I went, you know what, we'll leave it, we'll go with it. Now I've got to make this fit me. So these back pieces, they get pleated towards the back. So I need to mark where the pleats start. There's 3 on each piece, and put them in. Makes quite the difference once it's pleated down. Like, this is the unpleated side and this is the pleated side. Like, that's a lot of fabric in some little pleats. Now we're going to fold down this side as well, and then we're going to baste them so that they stay in place before we put the waistband on. Is basted into place, and it's looking lovely and voluminous in the back here. Now is time to put the rest of the skirt together. So I've got my side fronts and my front, but before I put my side fronts and my side backs together, I'm putting in pockets. It's not in the pattern, but you know, you just need pockets in things because life is easier with pockets. So I'm going to put them in between side front, side back, then put everything together, and I will have a skirt minus waistband and hem. There is so much fun swoosh in the bottom of this skirt. I am loving it. Now I have to put the facing pieces on, the hem facing. So because I had lots of this fabric left over, I've cut it out of the same fabric. And so now I just need to stitch them into one big circle, which then gets attached to the bottom of the skirt in a hem facing. My hem facing is all joined into a ginormous circle and ready to go. I have just done a double roll hem on the top edge, and then this edge gets joined to the bottom of the skirt. But before I put that or the waistband for the top of the skirt on, I do want to finish my seams. I was planning on felling all my seams because I quite enjoy felling, to be honest. It's nice and peaceful to just sit and hand stitch a straight line. To fell a seam, one side gets trimmed down of the seam allowance, and then the other side of the seam allowance gets folded over and just slip stitched down. And I don't know if there's an actual rule to it, but I like to do mine towards the back. So this is my front panel, so I will be trimming this seam and folding this one over it, and then it gets all the way folded, like so. So I will keep trimming further up, but just so I can illustrate what I'm talking about. This side is trimmed, this side then gets double folded over, and then that folded edge is slip stitched down all the way up. It is day 3 of this skirt and I leave tomorrow, so I've got to get this done. Because this afternoon I need to pack up my sewing room, put away the sewing machine, tidy little bits of the haberdashery that is just everywhere. It's all still a bit of a mess from Christmas. Yesterday I got 2.5 of my seams felled completely, which was better than I expected. Although I will say it's not my neatest, most beautiful felling work ever, but it's getting done and I think it's sufficient. And I thought I'd come outside to do these last couple of seams just to enjoy the last of this warm weather before I go over to freezing cold England and winter. So we are out here peacefully felling, and this is pretty much me for the rest of the morning. We got pickles in this place. Alright, we made it. All my seams are felled. They are definitely not my best work, but I was in a rush. Now I'm going to put my waistband on so that I can check the length before I put the hem facing on. There's a whole lot of plaid on my floor. It's just the way I like it. So somewhere in here is my waistband. Oh, that looks like it. Yes, my waistband is on and I have put on the skirt hook. So that is completely done inside and out. And I am now on the hem facing. And I have just gone all the way around and pinned it. Now I'm going to sew along here, and then this edge, which I finished earlier, will just get slip stitched to the lining on the inside. But that will not happen until I am in England. facing is attached, the next thing to do is to flip it all up and slip stitch it on the inside, just on the lining layer. But it is time to pack everything up and move to England. So we will see you in England. Welcome to my little York attic bedroom. I am literally living in the roof, which is exciting because that doesn't really happen that often in Australia. To have a little attic bedroom like you read about in all the books is quite lovely. It is chilly, but the quaintness makes up for it. And the fact that it's at the top of the house, it's nice and private. And I've got quite a bit of floor space, which comes in handy when you're trying to sew the hem of an Edwardian skirt, which is what we are doing this morning. I have about 40 minutes before I have to leave to make it to class this morning, and I am trying to get this skirt done so that I can wear it because it's chilly and this skirt is basically a blanket, so that would be great to wear around. This is what we are working with, and I am currently in the process, I have already started, of just slip stitching this hem facing to the lining layer. So I pinned it at the bottom because I didn't have an iron to sort of smooth that edge up. So I've pinned the bottom and now I'm just working my way around. I have a long way to go.